I know some of you have heard this 15 times today. I just want to make sure everybody's heard it. Lisa Myers, NBC News, yesterday broke the story. 2/3 of the people in this country who have private health insurance are going to have it canceled. Millions of people are going to have their health insurance canceled, and the Obama administration knew that was true, whilst the president has been going around saying, if you like your policy, you can keep it. That's from NBC News. Remember, not Sean Hannity, NBC News.
For years, they knew that would be the case. Our Obamacare expert, Attorney Craig, joins us. Welcome to the Obama show.
The
Obama and Getty show.
Goodness.
That's right. I'm accusing Jack of being in league with the president. It's the Armstrong and Getty show. Yeah. And Attorney Craig joins us. Craig, let's start with why are however many, it's going to be 10 to 20 million Americans going to lose their plans through this whole grandfather thing. Help us understand it.
Well, you guys are nailing it again this morning, and I wanted to give you the why behind the story. The law, it's not the soft-headed Joe Carney, Jeff Carney, whatever the heck his name is, talking points of we want insurers to have these minimum value plans. We don't want them giving you these poor plans. We want to have a baseline. That's all baloney. The law is designed specifically so that we can get the healthiest and youngest people into the exchanges. Because if you have the exchanges solely servicing the oldest and the sickest and the uninsured, they will fail immediately, and everybody knows that. So how do you get the youngest and the healthiest people into the exchanges? You write into the law to make the plans that they're currently on illegal.
You think that was on purpose? They wanted young, healthy people to get booted off their insurance so they'd have to sign up?
Oh, absolutely, Jack. And the number one evidence you have of that in California here is the two carriers that are getting the most publicity for doing this first are Blue Shield and Kaiser, which are the two carriers that have the largest stake in our California exchange. They're the first ones to kick people off the skinny plans and throw them into the Obamacare. I mean, these people were making rational choices. They weren't buying maternity care if they didn't need it. They weren't buying, substance abuse care if they didn't need it. But Obamacare can't have that. You can't have young, healthy people paying $60 a month. It doesn't offset the problem of the exchange. So you had to put something in place to bring that lower bar up to a $200 level as opposed to, say, a $60 level.
By getting a 25-year-old young man maternity care.
Maternity care and substance abuse care, even if he doesn't drink. Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly it.
And elder care, for that matter, for the young boy.
Right.
Wow. If this can be nailed down, if they can get the notes of meetings or whatever, this is explosive stuff.
Well, we have them. We have the notes of meeting, and those of us in the industry have been screaming about this forever. And I'm so glad to hear you guys in the mainstream media just finally picking it up. But
we were before them. For the record, we were earlier. You got to say that.
You were the earliest. That's
all right, thank you. First on the
thanks to yours truly.
Now, quickly. Okay, well, you know what? All right. Okay.
I want to hit you with
quid pro quo. All right, hang on. No, not yet. Because Valerie Jarrett tweeted last night, and I blasted away, getting national headlines, as long as we're patting ourselves on the back. She tweeted, fact, nothing in Obamacare forces people out of their health plans. No change is required unless insurance companies change existing plans.
Which they knew they would do, and we all knew, because think about it this way. If you have a whole system of insurance plans out there, and they have a platform of plans in their computer database, and Obamacare comes along and says, now every new plan you sell has to be totally different and include these 50 million things, right? Do you think insurance companies are actually going to maintain two separate platforms of plans? No. They're going to get rid of all the old plans that aren't compliant because they can't sell them anew anyway.
So
they're going to change all their plans, and they knew this. You're not going to have two systems of insurance.
So if they changed your copay by more than $5, it was no longer grandfathered in, and you would lose your insurance even if you like it. In other words, if they made any change, and they would all make changes.
Any reasonable change at all. There's a bullet list of 8 to 10 different things that can cause you to lose grandfathering. One of them is change the copay by more than $5. Another one is any change at all in the coinsurance. So if you have a plan that for a PPO that pays 80% of your expenses, if that plan were to drop to even 79%, boom, loss of grandfathered status.
So, exactly. So they set an impossible obstacle course for insurance companies.
We're already at 75% of employers, by the way, that have lost grandfathered status.
Okay.
75%.
All right. Speaking of insurance and employers and all, there's a bombshell that the next wave of horror. What is it?
The next wave of horror that is written into the law, and it's so bad that the Obama administration directed IRS and HHS to suspend it because they knew this would crush them, is a provision in the law, and for anybody who wants to look it up, it's called IRS Code Section 105H. That's IRC 105H.
This is the death panels, where they march you in front of the death panel and they say, "You need to die!"
I don't.
And then there's a trap door and you fall down to a pit of lions.
No, what this says is, in essence, and I'm going to dumb it down. This is going to be like Jack talking about gene maps. Sorry.
Now the cruelty.
This is a Dominic World Series report coming here. It says every single employer, 70% of your full-time employees must be on your plan, employer. So if you have 100 employees, 70 of them have to be on your health plan. And if not, if you leak more than 30% of your employees off of your plan to, say, a spouse's plan or the exchange or Medicare or Medicaid, then we're going to determine that you have what we define as a discriminatory plan, and we're going to fine you $100 per person per day.
Whoa!
I.e., the fine is so bad, we are projecting in our actuarial department here that we will see about a third to 40% of employers immediately drop health care if this thing goes into play. Now, this is written into the law, and HHS and IRS have quietly, temporarily suspended it and said, well, we're going to wait until we issue regulations before we start enforcing that. This is the bombshell. This will, depending on how they write those regulations, we could see as many as 40% of employees lose their employer-sponsored care because of a fine written into Obamacare.
I want to point out at this point that Craig, the Obamacare expert attorney, your primary living is not made advocating a particular policy nor being a commentator. What you're doing is helping companies deal with
That's right.
Obamacare.
I'm an insurance agent and an attorney, so right. I'm a unique hybrid in the state.
Oh, Lord. Getting invited to very few parties. But,
yeah, exactly.
So, but you're coming from the perspective of this is what you need to be ready for.
This is what we need to be. This is what my clients and I have been looking at for 3 years is, oh, my God, what's going to happen if they unleash 105H?
Okay,
it will destroy employers.
And what will determine whether or not that kicks in?
Right now, it's literally sitting at the IRS. It's in the IRS and HHS's hands to write the regulation and how they write it. And there's obviously a big fight going on inside the administration as to how draconian they make this test. Because the big question being, if you say you leak 30% of the people off your plan, we're going to start fining. The question is, well, if I'm on my spouse's plan, can you count me as somebody who's, quote, covered by an insured plan, or are you going to say, nope, I'm not on your plan, I count against you? And that's the huge fight they're having in D.C., according to the lobbyist we employ in D.C. to keep an eye on these kinds of things.
Do you have any idea what's common for a company like around here? You know, we have company-offered health care, but I know a number of people that don't take it because their wife's or husband's is better.
That's a great question, Jack. And honestly, in Northern California, which is what I can speak to the most, it's about 70% average because you do have spousal coverage. You have some people that are low income and on Medicaid, and you have some people that are young and healthy and have their own plan already. So it's typically about 70% do participate. So you're saying, oh, my gosh, roughly half of these companies would be out of compliance. And then what I'm saying is probably 10% of those companies would actually kick in more and do what they had to do to become compliant. The other 40% are going to say, I'm tapping out. I can't do it. I can't meet that standard. It's too draconian because $100 per person per day fine is significantly more than providing health care at that point.
And to point out the self-evident yet somewhat hidden, all of those people in those companies, that whatever percentage have sought health care through their spouse or Medicaid or what have you, they've all made the decision as to what's best for them and what they prefer. But as long as it's if more than 30% makes that sort of decision, the employer will be penalized heavily as being discriminatory, and essentially their insurance will be shut down.
Yeah, and here's what's really scary is if you're an employee working at that company, you almost certainly don't know this. Employees don't know like you guys at Clear Channel. Do you know what Clear Channel's participation rate is? No, you have no idea. So you could be sitting at a company and you have no idea this is looming over your head and has been for 3 years, that with the stroke of somebody at IRS, you could lose your plan because of the way they define a discriminatory plan.
Yeah. Well, we actually work for and with a couple of different companies these days, Craig, but nobody knows this. Nobody in any company knows this. No employee, as they're filling out their paperwork for next year, has any clue that this is the reality.
So just to recap, one of the interesting things you mentioned, and I guess it makes sense now that you've said it, is the whole Obamacare thing is built on really one thing, and that is young, healthy people pay for everything else. I mean, that's
to pay for sick, uninsured, and old.
That's the keystone to the whole damn thing.
Exactly.
And so those people, there were a certain number of them that weren't getting insurance, and they were going to force them on with the fine. I was thinking about those. I hadn't thought about the people who have health insurance, because I've always had health insurance. I never rolled the dice. I was never one of those people. I paid for health insurance. It wasn't very much, You're 25 years old. You got no kids. You're healthy. It costs hardly anything. But so they came up with a way to force somebody like me off of there.
And
with this whole
new stuff.
With this whole grandfather thing.
And here's the brilliant, insidious part. If the youngster who had a cheap insurance company or plan, rather, and now has to get on the new government stuff, was pissed off, the ibuprofen tablet, no pun intended, we're talking about medical care after all, the ibuprofen tablet, hey, we'll have the taxpayers pay most of your bill, dude. So don't worry about it. You won't have to pick up these costs. We'll subsidize you.
No, it's a beautiful system because, like Jack said last week, if it works, you're moving toward government health care. If it doesn't work, the default fallback would be let's just go single payer.
Right.
Yeah.
Craig?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Craig, the Obamacare expert right there. Folks.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yep. Craig, thanks very much. Let's stay in touch.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right. Now, if you've heard this segment, thought, holy cow, wow, unbelievable, crap, what did you can always go to ArmstrongandGettyRadio.com, grab the podcast, send it around to your friends, or tell them to listen to it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm telling you.
We are lucky to have him as our Obamacare expert. If we had decided we need to have somebody who's an Obamacare expert, we wouldn't have done as good a job as we ended up with having him just call us randomly.
Well, it's amazing how slow most of the media is to picking up on these things and reporting it, partly out of love for Obama and partly just out of lack of curiosity, and partly because we work somewhat in the news business, partly a lack of personnel. Everybody's been fired in the private sector, including the news business.
Well, and in this particular story, you'd have to be, one, diligent and take a lot of time and, really sharp with legalese to dig into tens of thousands of pages of regulations and have figured this out.